Hey team, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you all so much for being here, and today we are going to talk about our magical electional opportunities that we're going to have from our Aries Solar Eclipse on April 8th until our, what's next? Oh, our Taurus New Moon on May 7th. So I didn't expect to get as much from this month as I did. There's kind of a lot going on that makes different planets more difficult to work with right now. The Mars-Saturn conjunction is more in effect now, so both Mars and Saturn are kind of not useful. Mercury has gone retrograde, so Mercury is not useful. And when you're starting out your process of finding elections and 3 out of your 6 planets that the moon can apply to aren't doing so hot, you start to lower your expectations of what you can get out of anything. But we were able to salvage a little bit. We got 7 different elections to talk about, so that's really exciting. To have it all, just based on that. And I apologize if there's a weird sound. I have a fan running in the background. I feel like it was much more pronounced in the last video. I heard it a lot more listening to it back while editing. So I moved the fan further back, so I hope it won't be as much of an issue, but please forgive me if it is. It's hot where I am. Oh, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Cinnamon Swirl. He's just a cinnamon swirl, living in a cinnamon world, and we just have to deal with it. So he'll be around. You can tell with his ears that he's really excited to be here. He doesn't understand what's happening. And you know what? That's okay, because I don't really either, Cinnamon. Alright, so our first electional opportunity is going to be for the Western Europe and Australian continents. Only North America is not going to get an opportunity for this one. And this is going to be for the 5th Lunar Mansion. So the 5th Lunar Mansion is a mansion that is much more focused on the mind, on learning, on experiencing things mentally, on sort of traveling through the mental states. And so for those of you who are kind of going through a situation or are interested in exploring those areas, the 5th Lunar Mansion can be super helpful. And here I'm talking things like people who are in a course to learn, whether that's, of course, a college course or a course that's related to your career field, or a course that's just something that you're more interested in. Any sort of it doesn't have to be an official course, the 5th Lunar Mansion isn't let me see your receipt for tuition. It doesn't care. So it can be kind of a self-guided journey through information as well. But anything that you're sort of applying yourself to learn in this is something that I want to do, the 5th Lunar Mansion is very helpful in helping you to do that, to achieve, to remember, to retain, and to be able to use it when you need it. The 5th Lunar Mansion is very helpful for. It's also, I talked about the 5th Lunar Mansion being also about mental states and kind of exploring those. We also see information. We also see in the text references to the 5th Lunar Mansion as being able to help explore the dream world, the world of dreaming. Helps people get more control over lucid dreams. Look at that kitten. Look at that cat. Just being real cute back there with a little dragon friend. Just chilling. Giving himself a little bath before dinner. Isn't that a dog looking around? I don't know what he's looking at. Just being cute. The 5th Lunar Mansion won't help you become a cute cat. I'm really sorry, I've tried. So information, learning, and applying knowledge, being successful in learning, the 5th Lunar Mansion is useful for. It's also useful for dream exploration for people who are interested in having more control over their dreaming, or entering lucid dream states. People who are interested in today we would call it astral projection, traveling through different sort of mental realms. The 5th Lunar Mansion is helpful for too. And I imagine the 5th Lunar Mansion can also be very helpful for people who are undergoing some sort of psychedelic type journey, through the application of different medicines to have psychedelic experiences. I don't know if that to be true. I've never assisted or worked on a case like that, so let me know if that's something that you want to try. Tell me the story. I like the story about it all, how well that went. So yeah, 5th Lunar Mansion, very helpful for all those kinds of things. Very mentally focused. And so, like I said, this is going to be something that's only going to be for Western Europe, North Africa, and Australia. North America is going to miss out. And so looking at our election here for Western Europe, it's going to take place on April 11th at 13:28 is what this is set for, about 1:30 p.m. Let's see. Right. And here we have the moon in the... Wait a second. What is that? Get out of here. Okay, that planet made me look bad. We don't talk about that. We're not going to talk about that. How embarrassing. Okay, so we have the moon in the 5th lunar mansion, carrying on. And in this chart, she is applying the sextile to Venus in Aries, I believe. So Venus is going to be a weird kind of planet for this one. It's not necessarily... Venus wouldn't necessarily be like the first planet that would come to my mind in kind of like a 5th lunar mansion journey, but as a benefic planet, and, you know, in the 9th house, in the election chart for this as well, I think that can be very helpful. I would have really liked to see more like Mercury, the Sun, maybe even Jupiter. But like Venus will do the job. She's a benefic planet. She wants good things for us. So that can help us get the thing done there. We've got the Sun as the ruler of the 1st house. The ascendant degree is unafflicted by Mars and Saturn. The good thing about a Mars-Saturn conjunction, very few things can be said. I guess very few good things can be said about a Mars-Saturn conjunction, but one of the good things about the Mars and Saturn conjunction is that they kind of contain themselves in their own little quarantined area of a chart. So that's all you have to worry about, is keeping things away from that. 5 degrees of Leo isn't afflicted by this Mars-Saturn conjunction. The Sun is not afflicted by the Mars-Saturn conjunction. So you have everything here that you need to make a good 5th lunar mansion talisman out of. The the Australian version of this chart takes place on April 11th at 14:20, so about 2:30 p.m. And it looks very similar to the Western Europe, North African version. The only difference is that now the moon gets to be conjoined the midheaven, whereas before she was kind of, what was she doing? Kind of hanging out in the 11th house. I've since forgotten. No, that's not it. That's the Australia chart I was just looking at. Yeah, she was more hanging out in the 11th house, on the 11th house cusp. No, that's Texas. In the Australian version, she gets to be on the midheaven again, which is great. We want the moon more angular as possible. Most of the time, there are some houses that we can use that aren't angular that we can make good talismans out of just as well. And here, she's maintaining that sextile to Venus. Just a little further out, the moon is like 5 degrees deeper into Taurus, so we have a bit of a different. A bit more spacing here, but we still have kind of the 4th degree, well, the 5th degree of Leo here rising, which brings us to the Sun as the ruler of the 1st house. Both the ascendant degree and the Sun are unafflicted by Mars or Saturn. There's no real issue there. The Sun is separating away from the node, so that's not much of an issue anymore. And just all in all, a good 5th lunar mansion opportunity to pick up for Western Europe, North Africa, and Australia. Both elections brought to you Uranus free. That's like the guarantee. I feel like that's like the one guarantee that I can make on this channel. I might not be able to get you an election, but when I do, there will not be a Uranus in it. There you go. Put that on a bumper sticker. Sew it into a pillow. I'll put it on my chair. The next two charts are also going to be specifically for the Australian continent. So Western Europe, North Africa, and North America are all going to kind of like go to sleep, come back in 10 minutes, and we'll catch up. But for these next two charts, they are going to be Australia only. This next one is going to be an opportunity for a 7th lunar mansion talisman. The 7th lunar mansion I really enjoy. It's very similar to the 3rd lunar mansion. It is another talisman that's said to bring good things. The 7th lunar mansion is a little bit more focused financially. So if you're struggling, financially, if there's like some financial goal you'd like to meet, the 7th lunar mansion is a little bit more predisposed. It has better tools to help you accomplish that. So definitely look into that if that's something that you are interested in. It doesn't have to be specifically financial. If you just want like some good thing, if you just want like a general all-purpose good thing-ish talisman to get, or to have and hold on to for any situation that you might need. The 7th lunar mansion is a really great contender for that spot. I usually recommend the 3rd lunar mansion, but when we go through periods of time where 3rd lunar mansion's talismans aren't possible, or the 3rd lunar mansion is in the waning half of the zodiac during that time, the 7th lunar mansion is a great alternative to keep a hold of. So keep that in mind if you're maybe thinking about making a talisman, or exploring this further. This can be a good option to have just to kind of hold on to. So taking a look at our election, we have the moon in the 7th mansion, and she's in the middle of the 11th house. So generally I would want the moon on the midheaven or on the ascendant, but when we can't get that, the 11th house is good, the 3rd house is good. Those are usually my houses that I go to a lot. The 9th house is not, it's okay, but I would definitely go 1st, 10, 11, 3rd. Those would be my priorities. And I really wouldn't I don't like to go further than that, unless there's like a specific personal reason for that, but I don't like to go further than those. So we have the moon in the 11th house, which is good, and the reason why it's situated this way is because I wanted to make sure that we grabbed the sun sextile that the moon applies to, rather than the Mercury sextile, which would have happened just a little bit before this. If I'd let the moon be on the if I'd let the moon be on the ascendant, the moon would be applying to the retrograde Mercury, which isn't going to work out. You never want the moon to apply to a retrograde planet in a talismanic election. You don't want the moon to apply to a retrograde planet in a non-talismanic election unless there's something specifically retrograde-y about the thing that you're trying to get. So retrograde planets, they're out. So if the moon was on the ascendant, she'd be applying the sextile to the retrograde Mercury. If she were on the midheaven, she'd be past the sextile with the sun and on to, I guess, void-ish before finally coming to the square of Venus, which would not be terrible, I guess. The square of Venus could be fine. Like, passable is what I'll say. Like, the square of Venus would be passable in this situation. But the sextile with the sun is good, like very good for a 7th Lunar Mansion talisman. So we get this 1 degree 1 degree Leo rising, which out of the eyesight of the Saturn and Mars conjunction. The sun is doing fine here, could join the cusp of the 9th house, and you have a nice little Jupiter benefic thing going on here on the midheaven, which I really enjoyed. So that is the 7th Lunar Mansion election for Australia. After this, we go to another Australia-only election, and that is for the 9th Lunar Mansion. So the 9th Lunar Mansion is one that is generally, it's a bit more negatively oriented, I'll say. In a waning moon phase, the 9th Lunar Mansion is something that we would go to a lot for, like, cursing, for more, like, combative or malefic magic if we wanted to. I don't typically like to recommend those talismans, but, I mean, hey, you do what you gotta do, so knock yourself out. But here in a waxing moon, that's not going to be a very good... that's not going to be a good match. The waxing moon isn't super good for Malefica generally. So in a waxing moon, we're going to utilize that kind of like more difficult, more combative energy, and we're going to make it protective. So instead of like using negative energy to inflict harm on others, we're going to kind of use it to keep harm away from ourselves. Kind of like the Owl Goal, like a fixed star Owl Goal version of the Lunar Mansions. The 9th Lunar Mansion kind of covers that. So the 9th Lunar Mansion is a little bit more formulated for like magical protection, spiritual protection, kind of like keeping ourselves safe in that area. So if you're involved in spiritualism at all, or you interact with, even if you just want to like keep other people's kind of, I'm going to use the term bad vibes, even though that's not a great phrase. I'm sure we've all had that experience where we've been around somebody and we're just like, can we just not be around them anymore? Kind of keep that away from you and off of you. The 9th Lunar Mansion is very helpful. So the actual election for the 9th Lunar Mansion talisman is going to be on April 15th at 13:13, so about 1:15 p.m. And here we're going to have the moon in the 9th Lunar Mansion conjoin the midheaven here. I'm sorry. I don't know what a chart looks like. I've never seen an astrological chart before. Here on the ascendant. And at this time, the moon in Cancer is going to be applying this trine to Mars in Pisces. So, generally, Mars aspects aren't something that I look to a lot, and we always avoid, well, for positive purposes, we avoid squares and oppositions with Mars. But when it comes to, like, a self-defense, a protective type talisman, I really enjoy Mars as a partner planet for the moon to apply to. I think that's right on the money. That's a really great positive way to channel kind of Martian energy, just for like a back off kind of a thing. I really enjoy it, so we're going to use it because this is my chart that I'm sharing. So I really enjoy it. I think how tight the connection here is really cool. You can get almost like an exact trine from these. You could, if you wanted just to push it a couple of minutes later to like 1:17 or something. You could probably get like an exact trine between Mars and the moon on the ascendant, at least this specific place in Australia can. So I think that's really great. The moon is not going to be afflicted by Mars or Saturn. They're both kind of in a trine to the moon. You have a helpful Jupiter sextile to the ascendant and to the moon at the same time, which is also very protective. There's just kind of a lot going on. You could also argue that there's this square aspect. Whoa. Just go crazy, that there's a square aspect with Venus going on here as well. So there's just like a lot of intention. There's a lot of eyes on the ascendant, which I think is very useful for these kinds of protective, making sure everything works out okay and keeps everybody safe talismans. So I definitely recommend this 9th Lunar Mansion talisman if you're at all in a situation where you feel threatened, or you want to remain, kind of out of harm's way, or you work in. You want to keep yourself sort of like ritual cleanliness kind of a thing. Keep like negative, malefic attachments and negative spiritual things off of you and out of your environment. Here you go. 9th Lunar Mansion will do it for you. So after this, we're going to move into talismans that other places can use as well, not just Australia. The next talisman is one that Australia actually gets to take a break, and we'll talk about a talisman that's, that North America, Western Europe, and Northern Africa can use. But before then, let's check in on Cinnamon. Yep, still there. Just sleeping sleeping under a dragon, under a star. It's very calming. So our next selectional opportunity is going to be for the 10th Lunar Mansion. Now, the 10th Lunar Mansion is a really great one when it comes to health concerns, healing, and maintaining one's health. The 10th Lunar Mansion, especially for anybody who's going through any sort of health issue, especially one that's more long-term or chronic, the 10th Lunar Mansion is very helpful for. Helpful for people who are recovering, who are regaining their strength, anything like that. I also really enjoy the 10th Lunar Mansion because I've seen several examples where it has an effect on doctors, making them tends to put people in a situation where they either are meeting with a new doctor who, for whatever reason, there is introduced to their treatment team, and this new doctor has like an idea, or decides to run some test, or do something that ends up producing some new information that changes how the patient's treatment and their experience with that treatment is moving forward. Like, tends to make it much better. Either they do some weird test idea that gives them the information that they need, that helps them arrive at a diagnosis, or they try a different treatment plan that ends up working much better, bringing a lot more relief to the patient. So I definitely recommend the 10th Lunar Mansion if you're at all struggling, working within the medical system and the nightmare that it can be, if you're looking for a new doctor for whatever reason, moving to a new area, or just kind of like fed up with not having the kind of experiences that you think you deserve with your current treatment team. 10th Lunar Mansion, do it. Knock yourself out. Get you something for it. The North American version of this chart takes place on April 15th at 12:27, so about 12:30. And here we're going to have the moon in the 10th Lunar Mansion on the ascendant. And she's going to be applying this square to the sun in Aries, the sun, about healing, getting new information, learning, having insight and awareness of things that are going on. Really helps kind of bring that... really helps symbolize a lot of that power that the 10th Lunar Mansion shows in a lot of experiences involving it. Let's see. Mars and Saturn are not causing trouble for this. They're not in a bad aspect with the moon or the ascendant or the ruler of the first house, who is the moon. The sun is not retrograde. That would be a nightmare. Not something that we need to worry about. The sun's not combust. He's not retrograde. He's doing fine. So that's good. Another thing too about this talisman, about this particular election time, is that it could also be a moon talisman election if that was something that you wanted to do, or if you wanted to do something to kind of marry together the powers of the sun and moon together. It could work out really well. Here we've got the moon in Cancer. It's the moon's day, applying an aspect to the sun in Aries. There may be some situations where you can configure this to get it like the moon's day, the sun's hour. Something there to work with. So keep that in mind too, if maybe you're not super interested in the 10th Lunar Mansion aspect of it. Maybe you want to take it more like the moon planetary talisman with some kind of solar aspect of it as well, to kind of pay homage to both of the lights at the same time. This would be a really great opportunity. They don't come around very often. It's difficult to get the moon and the sun to aspect one another while in signs that they do well in. You pretty much have to deal with the square. So there you go. We did it. So the Western European and Northern African version of this, I actually had written down a different time for, and I'm not sure why I didn't just use this chart. So this chart looks, of course, very similar to the North American version that I just showed you, but it takes place on April 15th at 11:55 a.m., so just before noon. And we have kind of oops, lost my light. I lost my light. I've been eclipsed. We have basically the same setup that we did for the North American one. We have the moon on the ascendant, applying that square to the sun. In this instance, it is the sun's moon. It is the sun's moon and oh my gosh, that came out all weird. It is the sun's day and the sun's hour and the moon's day. So that's a kind of a fun thing for people who want to take this more like the sun-moon aspect of it rather than the 10th Lunar Mansion. Let the moon just have. Wait a second. That's what the issue is. Okay, now things make sense to me, and now everything makes sense in the world. So, the reason why I was very confused about why I didn't have, like, why this wasn't the chart that I'd written down, because I had written one down later, and we'll go and look at that one. So this chart can still work as a kind of moon-sun combination talisman. Absolutely, it can. But this cannot work as a 10th lunar mansion talisman, because the moon is not in the 10th lunar mansion yet. She doesn't get into the 10th lunar mansion until 25 degrees Cancer, and that's why I was having problems before. So April 15th at about noon, yes to like a moon-sun combination talisman, no to a 10th lunar mansion talisman. I do have an opportunity for a 10th lunar mansion talisman that we can talk about for Western Europe, Northern Africa, and that takes place at 20:03, so at 10 o'clock at night, 20:03, there we go. And here we're going to have the moon on the midheaven in the 10th mansion, applying that square to the sun. And here we're going to have Venus as the ruler of the first house, because Libra is rising, and Venus down here in Aries. And this is one that I'm going to have to, I guess, negotiate with you all a little bit on. So I really only worry about the nodes when it comes to the lights. So the nodes affect the sun and the moon. I don't really worry about them so much when it comes to the other planets. So that's why I think Venus here with the node is fine. I don't really hate that. I don't really care for it. It's just fine. It's just another thing, because the node doesn't eclipse Venus. Like it doesn't affect it doesn't affect the rest of the planets the way that it does the sun and the moon. So I don't super care that it's there. But I know that a lot of people do worry about that. They do not like it when the node is around a planet that they're trying to focus on, and that's fine. If you don't want to do this, if you're not interested, like if the node is a hard no for you, I totally respect that. Absolutely, I do. And then the same thing with this node here on the ascendant. You can actually move the time a little bit if you wanted to get the node further off the ascendant. If that's something that you feel uneasy about, I usually do like 5 degrees. So even I could back this up a little bit to get the node off if I really wanted to. But again, I don't really feel like the node impacts the ascendant very well. But I can completely understand why somebody would not want those. But this would be my recommendation for like a 10th lunar mansion talisman for for Western Europe and North Africa. It's sort of the best one that you're going to get from this, just because how everything's set up. Just because it takes like you say, the moon's at 25 degrees Cancer. Like, I don't have a lot of wiggle room with that, because that's where the 10th lunar mansion starts, so we can't really go back much further to try to, like, get something else. So that's our only option there. Our next electional opportunity is going to be for the 11th lunar mansion. So the 11th lunar mansion is one that is very much focused on career, promotion, and wealth, or like wealth building, so my usual spiel about the 11th lunar mansion is that its powers represent a unique intersection for today's world, where it, on the one hand, has the ability to help us generate wealth, and on the other hand, helps us to get favors from authority. So I often think about this talisman almost exclusively within the realm of career building and career ladder climbing. The 11th lunar mansion is one that I have a long history with. I've used it a lot for various career maneuvering. And I've always been very happy with where it's gotten me, or like the effects that I've gotten from it. So I often recommend it for people who feel stuck in their career, don't know really where to go, or anything like that. The 11th lunar mansion is really helpful, kind of like moving things around to get you where it thinks you could do well, where you could find some success in and find some happiness in, if that's something that you would. I was going to say, I don't know if it actually really cares about your happiness, but I actually think it does, based on some experiences that I've had with it. I think that's a fine thing to say about it. So if you're at all looking to, get more out of your career, something more meaningful, or get put on a path that leads you somewhere you think you can find some sort of fulfillment, or if you just feel like you deserve to make more, hell, that's probably true. The 11th lunar mansion can help you get to a place to be able to do that. So looking at our election for North America, this is going to be on April 16th at around 1:30 p.m. And here we're going to have the moon in the 11th lunar mansion conjoin the ascendant, and she's going to be applying this trine to Venus here. Venus is a benefic planet. This would really be one that I see the moon here, and I see like this sun trine happening in the future. I'm just like, why not now, sun? Why couldn't we have had this now? Because I really like the sun. Of course, like, what a shock. I really like the sun aspect here with the 11th lunar mansion specifically. It has a lot of solar imagery in it. It's in the sign of Leo. It's about career advancement and honors, and like just solar stuff. So I really would like it. I really like it when we can get sun connections with the 11th lunar mansion. I consider those sort of like the top tier 11th Lunar Mansion talismanic opportunities. But Venus isn't terrible. Venus is a benefic planet. She wants you to make more money. She wants you to be happy. She especially wants you to be happy with where you are. She wants you to find delight and joy in it. So I find like this Venus trine can be very helpful for that, for kind of like bringing that and bridging that gap between what do I do and what do I want to do, what do I see myself doing. Venus is good, is a good middle ground to help us kind of connect those two sometimes divided pieces of ourselves. So definitely recommend this. The moon is not afflicted by this Mars-Saturn conjunction. The moon's not combust. The ruler of the first house is the sun, who's not afflicted by the Saturn-Mars conjunction either. So just all in all, a really kind of solid 11th Lunar Mansion chart. The Western Europe and Northern African version of this chart takes place on April 17th at around 10:30 at night. And here we're going to have the moon in the 11th Lunar Mansion, but now further into the 10th house. So not quite on the midheaven. And she's going to be applying, they get the trine to the sun, which I prefer, rather than the trine to Venus. So good job, Western Europe and North Africa. You did it. Venus is going to be the ruler of the first house instead. She down here in the 6th house, unafflicted by Mars or Saturn. And the reason why we did this moon more in the middle of the 10th house than on the midheaven is because to get the moon there, we would have to get Scorpio on the ascendant, which would bring us to Mars as the ruler of the first house. And Mars conjoined Saturn isn't something that I particularly enjoy for people to experience or embody. So I guess, apologies to everybody who has a Mars-Saturn conjunction in your natal chart. I know that must be a rough experience for you. So I would not like to repeat that. I would not like for people to repeat that in an election. Instead, the Venus situation is a bit easier. We don't have this like malefic conjunction to worry about. Let me remove some stuff here so it doesn't look as weird. There we go. So yeah, just it's not I definitely feel like the moon sun trine is the bright spot in this. It's not necessarily in like the best houses that I would like it to be in, and then like Venus in the 6th house is a little bit of a downer for it. But all in all, if you want a chart that's about like pulling yourself up to something else, going from like a Venus in the 6th house to like towards the sun in the 7th house, it's great simple for that. And then the Australian version of the 11th Lunar Mansion chart is going to take place on April 17th at around 2:30 p.m. And here it's going to look much more similar to the North American version, where you're going to have the moon on the ascendant in the 11th Lunar Mansion applying that trine to Venus. Not the sun aspect here, but kind of the same thing still stands. Venus wants you, like Venus above all the planets, is going to want you to find delight and joy in your work. So if that's really more the issue that you're having with what you're doing, if it's not so much like I'm fine where I'm at, but I'd like to make more money, or I'd like to have more responsibilities kind of thing, it's like I really am not sure what I would like to do, or these are things I don't really care for about my job, and I'd like to move into a place where these things that I don't care for are no longer a part of what I'm supposed to do. Venus, even probably Jupiter could get you that specifically. Jupiter, I think, would lean a little bit more to the money part of it, but Venus is definitely, so this is a bit more tailor-made for people who have that specific concern about like not knowing what they want to do, maybe, or not finding a lot of delight in what they currently do. The Venus connection can help you maneuver that. This moon is the moon and the sun. Sorry, hold on. The moon and the ascendant degree are not afflicted by Mars or Saturn. The sun, as the ruler of the first house, is not afflicted by Mars or Saturn. So there you go. Get you some 11th Lunar Mansion. Find something to do that you love. So from here we kind of cross over and we go to the waning half of the zodiac. And with waning moons, with waning Lunar Mansion talismans, we're really looking to let go of and to move beyond things, to like reduce, to move on, to let go of. So that's where we're going to kind of shift our focus now. Before we were focused more on gaining and augmenting, growing. Now we're trying to get rid of stuff that we don't want anymore. And our first opportunity for this, for first of two, is going to be for the 22nd Lunar Mansion. And the 22nd Lunar Mansion is really helpful. It's very flexible. It's one that can be used pretty much the same way for both the waxing and the waning half of the zodiac. And so here we have it in the waning half right now, and we're going to focus more on the escape version. The 22nd Lunar Mansion is one that's useful for gaining freedom or from escaping from situations that we don't want to be a part of. And that, like I said, that's very flexible. It's something that can be very flexible with whatever that is. People get trapped in a lot of different things, trapped in jobs they don't enjoy, trapped in living situations that are perhaps even abusive, like that are constraining in some way, perhaps even abusive, in relationships that aren't going anywhere, in like locations that they don't want to be in, like places that they want to move from. All these kinds of things that people can be trapped or stuck in. The 22nd Lunar Mansion can help us create sort of the momentum and kind of lay out the path for us, we'll say, to get where we want to be or where we feel like we should be. So if that sounds like you, if that sounds like a situation that you're in, or if that sounds too close to home, for where you are, look to the 22nd Lunar Mansion to help kind of lay that path to get you somewhere better. So looking at our election for North America, this is one that all 3 locations that we survey will have: North America, Western Europe, North Africa, and Australia. The North American version of the chart takes place on April 28th at 1831, so about 6:30. And here we're going to have the moon in the 3rd house, her house of joy, in the 22nd Lunar Mansion, and she's going to be applying a trine to the sun. Oh, doesn't it feel good to have sun aspects in your election charts? It sure does. And so this is a really positive connection to have. The sun is all about kind of having the bird's eye view of knowing where things are going and where things are leading to kind of get you. The sun can also represent like authority. If you're in a situation where you're thinking about, like getting the authorities involved for whatever reason that is, this can be a really great chart to help them kind of like understand and to be like expedient towards helping you resolve the situation in a way that's to your liking, in a way that everybody can be safe in. So definitely consider it if you're at all in a situation like that. The Mars and Saturn conjunction is not as much of a conjunction anymore as a loose gathering, and we're not going to have that afflicting the moon. We're not going to have that afflicting Venus now here at the end of Aries, who serves as the ruler of our 1st house, nor is it going to be afflicting the ascending degree. So all in all, that's really good. I also kind of like this. So taking a step back, though, I don't normally dig so deep into the symbol. I don't normally dig so deep into the symbols of the elections. I don't think that they're all that important, but they can be really great to have. I really like the idea of Venus at the last degree of Aries for the 22nd Lunar Mansion talisman, because it's like Venus in her detriment in an environment that's hostile to her, that she doesn't understand, that doesn't understand her, moving soon into Taurus, the sign of her home, where she is understood, where she's around things that make her comfortable and make her feel safe and uplifted. Where she has control over herself. So yeah, I like that symbol. I think that's a really neat thing to have in this chart. The North American... No. Why do I do this every time? The Western Europe and North African version of the 22nd Lunar Mansion chart takes place on April 29th at 1:47 in the morning. So stay up late or set an alarm. And here we're going to have the moon on the ascendant in the 22nd Lunar Mansion, and she's going to be applying that trine to the sun a bit more closely in this chart than she was in the North American version. She's going to have a bit more angularity to her, so I do think this is probably the better chart for that. And here we're going to have Saturn now as the ruler of the 1st house, which is fine. We had been avoiding it for a while because of the Mars conjunction was so close, and you don't want to be either Mars or Saturn in that kind of relationship. That's not good for either of them. It's not what I'm going to say healthy, not a healthy relationship between the two of them. But now that they're 12 degrees apart, we can start to lean into them a little bit more for their symbolism and for their ability to kind of get things done, since they're no longer like fighting with one another. Mars is moving on. There's a healthy space between them. It's not really something that we need to worry about anymore. But kind of back to the thing, we have that trine with the sun. We talked before about the sun being very helpful. Kind of like being able to see and have clear guidance for where you need to go, where you want to go, that helps you feel more safe and secure, helps you get out of whatever kind of rut you're stuck in or whatever kind of situation you feel trapped in. The sun can help you get there. So this is another really great 22nd Lunar Mansion chart. And the Australian version is going to take place on April 28th at 20:35, so just a little bit after 8:30. And this is going to be a situation where the moon is like fresh in the 22nd mansion. She's going to be here on the ascendant. The 22nd mansion starts at 0 degrees Capricorn in 0 minutes, so we're barely half a degree inside of it. And she's going to be applying that trine to the sun. So again, the sun's a really great connection to have here, to be able to kind of see and have a plan laid out for where you want to be. If you're in a situation where you feel like you need to get the authorities involved for somebody's safety or to help you get out or whatever the situation is, just a really nice power to have and lean into. The ruler of the 1st house, because it's the Capricorn rising, is again going to be Saturn here in the 4th. And Saturn here is doing fine. We're far enough. We've got 12 degrees separate between the Mars and Saturn conjunction to make it no longer as messy of a thing as it used to be. It's a conjunction that's mostly kind of played out, and we're moving on to other things now, so we don't have that inherent affliction that represents, double affliction, double self-affliction going on here. But all in all, like I said, just another really great election for the 22nd mansion. I like that they were all able to lean into the sun aspect of it. Jupiter's another great 22nd lunar mansion connection to have. Venus is helpful too. Even Mercury if you want to move fast. And so that's going to be it for Australia. The last election opportunity is not something that Australia is going to get to participate in, but that is going to be for the 23rd lunar mansion. The 23rd mansion is one that I really like for the waning moon. It's about sacrifice. It's about swallowing. It's about, eating and consuming something, getting rid of something in some way like that. So the 23rd lunar mansion can be very helpful for it can be very useful for like sacrificial type purposes, for you to like sacrifice something up to get rid of, whether that's like a bad habit or like something that you're trying to kick or move beyond. Can be very helpful. But there's also like a medical aspect of it as well, where you can kind of like feed the 23rd lunar mansion whatever the affliction is, whatever it is that you're struggling with. The 23rd, because it's got a very swallower type imagery to it, I definitely recommend it for people who are having like specific medical issues with like the organs of consumption, we'll say. So like teeth, jaws, mouth, throat, esophagus, stomach, all of that. The 23rd lunar mansion has a very specific imagery to really address that in a way that it can be very effective, very spectacularly effective. So if you're at all struggling in those parts of the body, see if the 23rd lunar mansion can help you out. And this is something that I think can be done on either a waxing or a waning moon. I tend to prefer healing type talismans during a waxing moon, but waning moons, the 23rd lunar mansion seems to do really well, even if it is waning. So that's been really neat to learn and experience and watch other people do. So for the North American version of this chart takes place on April 30th at about 1:30 in the morning. And here we're going to have the moon in the 23rd mansion, applying the trine to... No. Oh, maybe I need to move this back. So let me see who the moon's applying to. I feel like I wanted to have the moon apply to Jupiter here, but she's not in this chart, so I might need to move it back. What's she applying to? A sextile with Mars. I don't hate that. We can go with that. So I'll say this. Either way, if you want to, you can move the chart back. Yeah, if you want to, you can move the chart back to have Moon trine Jupiter. So if you wanted to, let me take a look what that would look like. And oh, maybe you can't. Yeah, okay. I mean, you could, I guess, if you wanted to do like a chart like this with the moon in the third house, like something like at like 8:30ish, you could probably do something like this. Have the moon in the 23rd mansion in the third house, and apply the trine to Jupiter. Jupiter's a benefic planet, really wants to help heal, and like even Jupiter in Taurus, especially if it's like a throat issue, that could be very helpful. Very solid. You could have Mars as a ruler of the first house, unafflicted by Saturn. Like this could work fine. So this can be fine. So you can have a Jupiter version of it, or you can have a Mars version of it, which would be for the original time I said, around like 1:30 in the morning. So you have like the 8:30 Jupiter and Taurus version, or the 1:30 Mars and Pisces version, where the moon will apply the sextile with Mars. I think that's fine too, especially since like in a waning moon chart, and the idea of like sacrifice, cutting off from something, like getting something out and away from you. I think Mars is another really positive manifestation of Mars's like kind of aggressive tendencies or powers. So absolutely we can lean into that. The ruler of the first house in this chart is going to be Saturn as the ruler of Capricorn. Saturn's in Pisces, unafflicted by Mars. We're past that conjunction mess. The moon is not afflicted by Mars. She's applying to a sextile. So I think that can work out very well. I've forgotten about that, and I was a little surprised to see it because I really thought I was aiming for the Jupiter trine. But yeah, so absolutely, either way, do either one. Okay, so I guess this is why I got a little confused on it, because I had maybe seen or anticipated it in the Western European and Northern African version, and this chart takes place on April 30th at 2:37 in the morning. And here you have that. You have the moon in the 23rd mansion applying the trine to Jupiter and Taurus, and I guess I just assumed that was what I was going for all of them. So here you do have the Jupiter and Taurus option as kind of like the main option. Jupiter's a benefic planet. It wants to heal. It wants to make things whole. It wants to help you, feel better about whatever is going on. Let's see if we can get a Mars sextile version. No, not really. Yeah, 'cause, like, even if you got it to where the moon was separated from Jupiter by a little bit, you would have the Taurus ascendant, which would bring it to Venus, and I don't like it when the ruler of the first is in the 12th house. So no. So West. But all right, everybody, thank you guys so much for being here and for watching. 7 elections in a month is pretty good. That's a whole fourth of the lunar mansions. We didn't have a lot going on with like fixed stars. That's been an issue that we've had for a bit. But now that the node is getting further away from the 24 degrees of Libra, where like Spica and Arcturus are, hopefully we'll start to see that open up more, because I've missed them. I've missed those two for a while now. And then for planets, they're kind of all over the place. We didn't really have a Sun in Aries election just because of like the eclipse and like being near the node and all that mess, which didn't work out for us. Venus in Taurus doesn't look like she's going to work out for us, just because she's going to be hanging around the sun so much while she's in that sign, which really sucks. And yeah, I'm not sure what hopefully we'll have something for Mars and Aries. That'll be something interesting to look into and check out. But yeah, it's going to be a bit before like planetary talismans start to really open up. We did have that neat kind of double sun-moon election for some locations, so look into that if you're at all interested in kind of exploring that, because it's really the only kind of planetary thing that we're going to be able to do for a while. But hopefully things will look a little bit better as we move past the eclipse and all that rough waters. May it pass over you easily and swiftly. Thank you all so much for being here. Special shout out to my patrons. Thank you guys so much for your support, and if you'd like to support the channel and see more pictures of Cinnamon, looking to join the Patreon, we have a 6-hour introductory course on astrological magic, office hours twice a week, a bunch of talismanic goodies that go out, and a whole bunch of other things. So look into it, and I will see you all later. Take care and be safe during the eclipse. But before we go, let's check in on Cinnamon.